Hi, Allie. Hi, and welcome to another edition of Virtual Health Club. I am your host, Dr. Millie Lytle, and thank you so much for being here today. If you are a member or if you are joining in the replay, we've got a really exciting episode for you today. It's spring here in New York, and so we've got our demo coach and lifestyle coach, Allie Might, back to talk about urban gardening. So we're going to learn all about how to garden in the city, if you will. So take it away, Allie.
Thank you so much. Uh, there are so many different benefits to being able to garden, and you can get out in the sunshine, soak up that vitamin D. It's a really good form of very light exercise. I'm fortunate enough where I live where I can plan to garden outside here in the city. So I can spend all day out there walking around, planting, playing around, and I'll realize a few hours later that I've basically been doing squats for a few hours. So that's always really good. And, you don't even realize that you're getting all that, exercise movement because, you do feel like you're, just working or playing and kind of taking it easy. But, so you get a lot of additional benefits like that, but you also get the opportunity to be able to grow some of your own food. You have more control over what's going into soil and what you're actually growing. Uh, there's also so many people around the city and in urban areas where they live in apartments or townhouses and they don't have that opportunity to be able to get outside and plant. So I also do a lot of things inside the house that I can grow. So I grow a lot of herbs in the house. So I always have them in my kitchen. They're always readily available to me. And I always use mason jars. For those of you that are new to Health Club, I am obsessed with mason jars. If you can make something or put it in a mason jar, I always think it tastes better, it looks better. So anything that I could find to use mason jars with, I get very excited about. So I have a lot of different things that I'm going to plant today that I'm going to keep in my kitchen.
Judy, I'm not sure if you're asking a question, but we can't hear you. Judy, we can't hear you.
Can you hear me?
Question.
Oh, we can hear you now. Do you have a question?
No, not now.
Okay, we're going to mute you.
Okay. So we're going to do a lot of fun things today. I'm going to plant 6 different things that I'm going to show you that it's really going to help to benefit me in my kitchen. I'm going to have some nice things growing, some live things going on in the house that is going to help to just bring in life and just a little bit of extra little happiness into your house as well in the kitchen. And these are all fun little things that I can use in cooking and, adding it to my water, adding into different desserts that I may make in the summer. So the first thing that I'm going to show you is, this is a really good place for people to start, especially if they've never really planted or gardened before. There's special seed packs that you can get like this that usually come in, get like 3 or 4 different seed packets in here. This particular one is Italian herbs. So I have parsley, thyme, oregano, and basil that comes in here. So I'm going to open this up first and show you. And these also come in all different kinds of categories. I also have one that I'm going to use outside this year. This is tea time. So I'm going to grow different flowers and herbs that then I can make my own tea, which is very exciting. That's something new that I'm going to venture into this year. Every year I always like to add something new, make some modifications, try new things to, just kind of find different new recipes and things to work with. So out of these 4 that I'm going to do, I'm going to use the thyme, the oregano, and the parsley for inside, because I use my basil. Basil I do grow outside because I use so much of it. I actually planted in an area that's about 2 by 3 feet. So I have a very large area that I grow basil because I use it to make in salads throughout the summer, and I also make my own pesto sauce. that then I freeze and I have all year long. So I have all that control over what I'm eating, what I'm cooking with, and I know what's going in there are going to be really good whole ingredients. The seeds that I'm using today, a lot of times it's harder to find the organic herbs. I find more of the organic fruits and vegetables that I use outside in the seeds. So unfortunately, I wasn't able to get organic seeds for the herbs. So when I encounter issues like that, what I do is I try to look for reputable companies that are at least pro non-GMO. And I also look for, if I'm buying plants, I'll look for things that are heirloom, and I always stay away from hybrid, because anytime you're starting to get into hybrids, that's when they're splicing things together and modifying everything, and that's always definitely a no-no. The other things that I'm going to show you to plant today is going to be sage and peppermint. So those are going to be all the fun herbs for me. And then because I'm doing the indoor herb garden this year, I am also going to plant catgrass to incorporate into there, because I do have a cat, and if there's any plants in the house, he thinks that they are all for him. So I have found that if I have something around them for him, he knows that that's for him. He focuses on his area, his plant, his grass, and he'll leave mine alone. So that's always helpful when you have, you know, those little fur babies and you want to keep them safe and strong. I also do a lot of research, because I have him, when I grow things in the house, to make sure that what I'm growing isn't going to be harmful or poisonous to him. Because while some things are good for us humans, sometimes they're not good for our animals, even though they do have health benefits. They're not always good for our little fur babies at home. So how I'm going to start planting is I start with some sand that I'm going to add in to the jar, and I only put a small amount in. I also have on my table here, I have it lined with some garbage bags, so I don't have to worry about making a mess. It will give me very easy cleanup. So like I said, I have a bag of sand that I have, and I'm just adding it to the bottom, and that's about good. Just about, 3/4 of an inch to an inch that I add in. And this is going to aid in the water absorption. It's going to help to hold any additional water that goes into the jars for the plants. And as it starts to evaporate, it'll then moisten the soil and the seeds to help them grow. That way you don't have just water sitting there and being stagnant. The sand is serving a purpose for the plant, and it's also going to look really pretty. So kind of get a double benefit there. So I'm almost done. I'm filling up the third one here with some of my sand. Just going to move these over so I have them a little closer. Okay. All right. As you can see, we're just about done. I'm actually going to lower this so you can see what I'm doing more now. There we go. Okay. So I'm just filling these up, as you can see, with the sand. And I just kind of want to eyeball it and make sure we're just about even with all of them. You don't really need a whole lot. It's just a little bit to hold some of the water. Okay, I think that's pretty good. As you can see, yeah, it's about 3/4 of an inch. And I actually got them, I think, almost perfectly even, so that's really good. The next thing that I'm going to add, I have a whole jar of river rocks that also aid in the absorption and evaporation of the water. And they also look very pretty in our jars. So I'm just gonna add a couple of handfuls to each jar. Okay. There we go. All right. So we only have 2 more to go with our river rocks. The sand and the rocks are also going to help because, it's going to help to eliminate, any mold or mildew developing especially because we're using the jars instead of the pots that have the holes in the bottom where the water can seep out. So it's really important that we have something to help with holding the water and allowing it to evaporate properly instead of just sitting there and being stagnant. So the next thing that we're gonna do on our jars here, before we even start to open up our seed packets, is we're going to then fill them with our soil. So I have here next to me, I have a large bag of soil. It's probably about 100 pounds. So we're not going to lift that up and allow me to throw my back out because I would do that. But I do have organic soil that I use. So I'm just going to start filling everything up. And I'm going to move these over a little bit so you can see better how I fill them. There we go. So this goes really easily, especially with the different tools that we have. I think this one might be a little bit big. I think I'm going to use the other one here. This is a little bit smaller, but I think it's going to get our soil in much better. I don't pack it down too much, just kind of lightly, and that's about good. I like to fill it up to just about the bottom of the rim there. And then I'll set this one aside. And as you can see the sand, you can see a little bit of the rocks and our soil as it's going in. So I'm just gonna continue to do this. All right, so
is that a special kind of sand, or is that just people could go to the beach and gather sand, or do you get that where do you get that?
I bought the bag of sand at Home Depot. Probably the ones at the beach probably wouldn't hurt, but you never know what people have done to the sand at the beach. You never know what kind of, litter is in there. So it probably wouldn't be the best place to get the sand for something like this at the beach, just because, with all the litter and, people do weird things at the beach. They're smoking cigarettes and just throwing stuff, and you never know what you're gonna get. So I think that, the sand that you just got already backed up at Home Depot or any gardening center, it's probably going to be just a little bit more pure.
It's kind of like you're recreating like a whole groundwater system.
I am, yes. And as you can see, it doesn't take a lot of time. It goes pretty quickly, and it's a really easy thing to do. And the other fun thing is, as the seedlings start to sprout and grow, make sure you keep checking out our social media, because I'm going to be posting them, and so that everyone can see how they're growing and kind of help to chronicle what we've done here today. There we go. So we only have 2 more. All right, and then we'll get going on opening up our seeds and actually getting those into our jars. We're almost, this is a pretty big one. I think we'll get a little bit more in there, I think. Okay.
And does somebody need to start this in the spring, or could they do it in the summer or even like in the fall?
With herbs, you could really do it anytime. They actually start growing really quickly, especially if you're doing it inside. If you plant outside, there's a little bit more of a timetable that you have to stick to. But as far as growing things like herbs inside, you can really do it all year long. There we go. Outside, you have to, it really goes by where you live, because it's more about, you have to wait until after first frost. So like around here, I'm in the New York City area, as I think I mentioned in the past. I usually wait until May to start planting anything outside. So actually on Saturday, that will be my big project outside. I'll be transferring any plants that I have, as well as planting any seeds that I would use outside this year. There we go. Usually Mother's Day is a good time frame to figure out when to do that. And since that's Sunday, this coming weekend is a really good time and opportunity to start doing any outside planting around here. And I'm just gonna set this aside. I'm gonna move some of this dirt off to the side a little bit so we can see easier. There we go. All right. Okay, so I'm gonna get everything lined up here. So I'll start with the first three, and we'll do our first three. We're gonna start with the peppermint, and I really like the peppermint. Peppermint is something that's really fun that you can use as an herb. You can use it, you can boil it down and make a peppermint tea out of it, which is really, really good for your digestive system. You can also add it to water and flavor up your water a little bit, give it a little, more exciting, more, different flavor that we're all kind of looking for instead of just water. It's always nice to have some different flavors and just kind of make it more exciting. Okay, so what I'm gonna do, I just put a little bit in. The peppermint seeds are very tiny, so this is actually quite a lot, but I'm just going to just kind of dump them in a little bit here. Okay. I probably got about 150 seeds in there, so that's gonna give you a lot of nice peppermint, and it's just on top there a little bit. And what I'll do now is I'll take a little bit of our soil. You just need a very small amount, and then I'll cover the top. You only need, half an inch or so on top there. Okay, like that. So you don't need a lot. And then what I do is I have, so that I remember what I have planted, I have my little stakes here that I've written out what's in here, and I'll put them in just so I know and I'm reminded of what's in here. You can, you can do it as simple as that, or you can get creative. Some people paint the side of the jar with chalk paint, and they can write on what's in there. Some people make special little signs that they put in. I use the little stakes. It's what I use in my outside garden, so it's just something that then I transfer into my house when I do this. Okay. The mint is also really fun to use. Fresh berries are going to be very abundant pretty soon. So it's always nice to have, you can make a berry salad and add some fresh mint to it to give it a little flavor and a little pizzazz there. So our next one is going to be sage. All right, I think I got this one open. All right. So the sage is new. Sage, I use a little bit more in the fall. But sage is really fun because sage can be used in a lot of cooking to add, different flavors. I like to use sage actually when I make pastas or raviolis. One of my new ventures is to start making my own, so I'm going to be very excited to make my own pastas and raviolis and have even more control of what's going in there and the ingredients that I'm using. And then use some sage to help flavor it up. So I'm going to go to the next one. I'm going to take some of my sage. And again, this one's a lot larger, as you can see. So I'm just going to kind of disperse this around in my jar. And then again, we'll add a little bit of soil on top. It's nice, you don't need too much. And usually with herbs, you start seeing them sprouting normally within the first week. So it's a really easy thing to plant, and it's always really exciting when they start to grow. So with the herbs, you know, you don't have to wait a long time. So you really feel then that nice sense of accomplishment as they start to grow with, you know, just in usually the first week or so. So that's always fun. Okay, so I'm going to move on to my oregano. Excuse me. The oregano is such a common herb, and I always like to add it to vegetables. And it's a strong flavor, so you don't even need a lot of it, which is nice. Okay. Go.
I recommend sage tea for my patients who have hot flashes. It works really well.
Yes, that's true too.
Yeah, it works really fast.
Well, yeah, and what's nice is most herbs, like you said, can be boiled down and made into teas. Okay, so our oregano looks a lot like our peppermint. It's very, very tiny. So we're just gonna disperse this around in here like the others. Okay. I'm actually gonna fold this over, so you don't want them spilling out all over the place. There we go. And then we'll cover this one. There we go. And I'm not packing it in very tightly. You just need it, you know, on top. You don't need to pack it in too heavily or leave it too lightly. You still want it to sit there. Okay, so here's my oregano. So I'm going to add my oregano sign. And we're already halfway done. As you can see, it doesn't take too long to do anything like this. And the benefits are, you know, really high and really great. And there's so many different things that you can use with any of these herbs that you have in your kitchen. And it's also a really good time then to start, you know, playing around and discovering, you know, new recipes, new ideas, and new foods to use along with them. And the next one I'm going to use, I'm going to use the thyme. Thyme is a really interesting herb because it actually has kind of a lemony flavor. So thyme is really good to add, you know, you can add it to vegetables, but it's also a really nice herb to add to, you know, some fresh fish, which is going to be, you know, more abundant now. You know, adding it to, you know, like a boneless, skinless chicken breast as you're baking it. That's, you know, a few really good ideas to make use your thyme for. And again, these are really tiny seeds, not as small as some of the others, but, you know, still a little small. So again, I'm just dispersing this around. I don't know if you can see them in there or not. They're the little tiny brown dots. So I think that a couple of these other ones, a couple of these other ones are going to be larger, so we'll be able to see them more in the camera. And you know, when I show them to you in the soil. Okay, so I'm just going to cover this up a bit. I didn't get too much there, so we'll do another one. All right. Okay. And then I'll add in my thyme sign. Okay. So the next one we're going to do our parsley. Parsley is really good. There's a lot of different benefits to parsley. Parsley is actually like a natural breath freshener. It is also, you know, a great herb to add to, you know, fresh herb to add to different dishes. It's also It's also a natural diuretic. So I also like parsley. Sometimes I'll boil it in the summer and drink it as a tea. And it's really good because, as you know, if anyone is like me, in the summertime, especially when it gets really hot and humid, my fingers swell up a lot because I'll retain more water in the summer. So this is a really good way to help to pull some of that water out and relieve me of some of that, pain and swelling in my fingers. I think you can see this a lot better. It's lighter. It's a lot, the seeds are a lot larger, so you can just kind of see how I added into the jar on top there.
Yeah.
So we'll go ahead and cover this. Okay. So just patting it down really lightly. Okay, and then our last one is we are going to make our cat grass so that my little one doesn't disturb the human garden here. We always have to make sure that everyone in the household is taken care of and happy. So we are going to, I'm actually going to add in lots of cat grass, believe it or not. This is actually really large, as you can see. So I'm going to put a fair amount in here. He goes crazy for it, and usually within a week to 10 days, it'll be at least high enough to where he can start playing with it and eating it, and everything in the house will be left alone. So I'm just gonna cover this up. The interesting thing about this one is it doesn't need a lot of cover. You can almost leave some of the seeds poking out, but I like to cover them up a little bit. And then I'll add in our last one. So now that I have all of these ready and prepared, you want to make sure that you water them. So I'll start with my first 3 here. And I'm going to start with giving them a nice soaking and a nice drink of water. So I'm gonna move this up a little bit closer. I'm gonna give it a nice, as you can see, it's starting to, the water's starting to go down the sides and into the soil. And what I really wanna do, I wanna give it a really nice drink of water, and I wanna get it into the sand so that we have the evaporation going throughout the next couple of days. There we go. As you can see, the sand is now nice and wet. So this is going to be pretty good. Okay, that might be a little bit too much, but usually in the beginning you want to get them give them a really good hearty drink of water. So I'm not going to worry about that. I think it's going to be fine. Now we're going to get to our next one. Okay. So we're just going to continue to. We're going to continue to water these guys until the sand is wet. Get a little bit more. Okay. Give it a little bit more. There we go. And I think that one's pretty good now. And then we'll just continue doing this. As we're watering these, does anyone have any questions about what we've done so far? Any other gardening questions, whether it's outside, inside, why we like to do this?
How often do you water them?
I water them. I usually test them usually every morning, just to kind of see how damp the soil is. I've done them inside where I'll use really small planters. And in that case, I usually have to water them usually in the morning and evening. because because I'm using a system like this, I won't have to water them quite as often. This will be really obviously the initial watering, and then as it's evaporating and the stones and the sand are allowing the water then to evaporate and come up and keep the soil moist, that'll usually last probably a couple of days. But really going forward, I probably won't have to do a hardy watering like this. As the soil then just starts to get a little bit dry, I'll usually just have like a sprayer on hand, like a little container with like a spray bottle, and I'll just kind of spray the top and just keeping it moist like that. So it's very easy. I'm a person, if I can be forgetful with things like this. So I used to have a tendency of killing my plants. And ever since I found alternative methods on keeping them happy and keeping their thirst quenched like this, I don't really kill them as much anymore. So, it's been it's kind of a hit or miss with me. But having systems like this in place definitely helps, and I don't have to keep them constantly watered all the time. And where I just have to keep a spray bottle, I'll spray them down, usually maybe once a day, if it's sometimes even twice a day, but this is our good initial watering. And as you can see, the water is pretty much absorbed into not only the soil, but into the sand. So I probably won't even have to water them at least until tomorrow with a spray bottle.
I know basil needs a lot of sun, but what about those other herbs? Do they need direct sunlight?
I keep them on my windowsill, so they do get a lot of nice direct sunlight, but it's not overly, they're not going to bake too much. But I'm fortunate, where I live, I do get a lot of sunlight, so I can grow, most herbs do need a fair amount of sunlight. The ones that I grow outside need a lot, and most herbs do, so.
Any other questions? Judy, you had unmuted yourself.
Yeah, I had one on the cat grass. Is that the same cat grass that they sell in the pet stores?
Yes, it is.
Okay. Curious, because I have a cat as well.
Mm-hmm.
So I could grow my own instead of buying it.
Absolutely, yes. I've done both, and growing it is so easy for them, especially because I find a lot of times in the pet stores, sometimes they just don't look very good, and you never know what they're putting on there. The cat grass is good for them, but you never know if they've sprayed anything on there or what kind of soil they're using, and so this is so much better for them, and it's easy.
That's a different plant. Is that a different plant than catnip? Is that a different plant than catnip?
Yes, it's a completely different plant than catnip. Catnip is, depending on the cat, catnip can either calm them down and just make them like very chill and relaxed. Some cats, it has an opposite effect on them, where sometimes it can make them very rambunctious. So it kind of depends on the cat, how the catnip can affect them. A lot of people like to compare catnip to almost like kitty pot or kitty cocaine, depending on the cat. So it's kind of funny how it affects them, but it definitely doesn't harm them, and it can actually be really good for them. The cat grass is more similar to like a wheatgrass. So the cat grass is actually really good, like for their digestive systems. So I think like health-wise, the cat grass is better. If you have a very rambunctious cat, the catnip sometimes is better for them.
Okay, yeah. I'm seeing Nepeta cateria, that's catnip in Latin, and Dactylus glomerata is catgrass. So totally different herbs, different families. Okay.
Yes.
Any other questions? Judy, did you get your questions answered?
Yes, I did.
Good. Does anyone else have any questions, or, on different herbs to grow, what to do with herbs?
one other question. See, my apartment faces the west, so I don't get any really decent sunlight till maybe from about early, depending on the time of year, early afternoon or mid-afternoon. And really strong sunlight when it's going down, about to set. Is that all right for these?
You can try them. It may take a little bit longer for them to grow, but you should be able to see some. You should get some growth out of them.
Okay.
Yeah. I've grown stuff in my back windows, and I've also grown stuff in my kitchen where they get different types of sunlight, and I haven't had a problem either way.
Okay, thanks.
You're welcome.
Great. So you went over some of the health benefits of the herbs. You talked about parsley, it being a diuretic, good for swelling, good for urinary tract. Most people know for that. Good for breath. You talked about that. You talked about thyme and oregano. Those are both immune boosting, great for colds, especially if they're freshly steeped in hot water, great for congestion, chest infections, etc. Good immune. Everybody knows oregano oil, so good for like bacteria and fungus. And so
it's very good. Yeah, especially this time of year, going into allergy season, and just keeping your full immune system nice and healthy. Absolutely.
Yeah, so fresh honey and some oregano tea or some fresh thyme tea are really great for upper respiratory tract, lower respiratory tract. And then what was the other herb you talked about at the very beginning that you planted?
Peppermint.
Peppermint, right? Good for your stomach. Also good for congestion, breathing.
Very good, yes.
Yeah, great for IBS.
Yes, very good for IBS. I was just going to say that too.
Great. And if you had planted catnip, of course, is known for exciting the cat. Maybe in some cases it winds the cat down, but for humans, it's actually a sleeping herb. So also humans can take that for sleep. So there's other sleepy teas that one could grow.
I'm actually, my first venture this year, I'm actually going to grow chamomile outside. So I'm very excited I'm going to make my own chamomile tea, which is really good. Just like as a stress reduction, it's great to have in the evening to help relax and go to sleep and calm you down. So it's very good after a stressful day.
Yeah, so not only do you have when you're growing plants indoors, you're connecting with the plants, you get to be in control, as you said, all the benefits of using them in your cooking, but then also they're medicine. So you can for whatever purpose you need the most, if it's for calming your stomach or if it's for headaches or if it's for sleep, tension, then you can grow the plant that you need the most.
Yes, absolutely. Yes.
That was an amazing demonstration. I mean, you planted 6 little gardens and you planted a garden, but with 6 little crops. And
yes, we basically have a full garden here that's going to be on my windowsill that I could, make teas out of, I can cook with, I can, just add some fresh things, into cooking just on top of a dish. So yeah, I can add them to my waters to give them new and exciting flavors throughout the day. So yeah, there's a full garden here, and it's, it doesn't take up a lot of space, and it's great for a windowsill, and absolutely. And in, almost no time at all, it feels like, right?
Yeah, and they can even be added to salads and make.
Absolutely, I love fresh herbs and salads. Giving each one a different little flavor.
Yeah, awesome. Okay, so we're looking. Everybody's going to follow the Nat Med Coach page on social media. Follow Allie Might on Facebook or Instagram, and you will post pictures of how they're coming along.
Yes, I'm going to post pictures how they're coming along, and as they get taller, I will post pictures of things that I'm doing with them, teas that I'm making, I'm adding them to recipes, and I'll also send you, Dr. Millie, just a little write-up on each one that I did and what they're good for, and one recipe for each one.
Okay, awesome. So we'll send that out with the newsletter, and then I'll also post it on the blog so that everybody can be able to access that. Great. Delia, did you have any questions? I saw you turned on your video. Nope. Okay. All right. Awesome. Amazing. We always accomplish so much on your episodes, Allie. I'm so
We
impressed.
do, yes. We accomplish so much, and I feel like in such a short period of time, but it just goes to show you that, these things can be done very easily at home.
Yeah, and you don't even need new mason jars. You can just like, if you have old like pickle jars or peanut butter jars, as long as they're glass, right?
Absolutely, yeah.
Clean
These are,
properly.
yeah. All year long, I'm always doing, all kinds of little housing projects, like the garden, or, a while ago we did our aromatherapy that we put into our mason jars. And once the fall hits, I do like a lot of canning and pickling. I make my own jellies, so we'll definitely have to add that into the mix to show everybody.
Yeah, Allie.
Yes, hi.
Hi, it's Delia. Couple of questions. The first one is, how do you best store those herbs? And then the second one is, once it grows out of the jars,
Mhm.
is it done with and then you have to plant more seeds, or will they spring up over and over again?
They should spring up over and over again. I have a tendency of not being being impatient. So I have a tendency of, once they sprout really nicely, I'll cut them. I'll cut them off. Some of them I will use immediately. Sometimes if you want to store them, you can do one of two things. You can wrap them in a moist paper towel.
Mm-hmm.
They store nicely like that in the refrigerator.
Oh.
Or you can, cut them. You can just add them then to like a smaller jar in some water, and they'll hold like that for a while. And then I would just replant them. That's just how I am. I'm a little too impatient. Or what you can do is you can also dry them, and you can dry them out, and then you can use them as dry herbs throughout the year. There's also ways to freeze them in different ways, where then you can use them as for sauteing, for sauces later on throughout the year.
Oh, okay, good.
Mhm.
Thank you. Now, if you store them in the water, it won't get slimy?
It shouldn't get slimy. Obviously you definitely want to change the water every day. But you probably won't have them in the water for too long, because you're definitely going to be using them quite frequently.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Got to use them.
Absolutely.
What about freezing them, Allie? Can you freeze them?
You can freeze them. Yeah, there's lots of different ways to freeze them. I'll send you a few different ideas, but when I freeze them, I'll use an ice tray, and I freeze them like that. So you can freeze them with olive oil. You can actually freeze them in like a little bit of white wine, and it's a great way to use to add to make like a nice white fish. So and it also then doubles as a nice sauce. Yeah, so there's numerous different ways to freeze them, to store them, to dry them, use them fresh. So there's so many different options to use the herbs.
Amazing.
Mm-hmm.
That sounds like another episode.
I probably could do a whole nother episode just on that. I think we'll use that maybe in the fall. We'll add some fun different ideas like that.
Okay, great. Well, thanks so much, Allie. And if there's no more
you.
questions, Allie will be back next month on June 4th. She will be presenting Healthy Travels. She'll talk about how to travel safer, tips and strategies for staying on track with a healthy lifestyle while on vacation, how to stay hydrated, prevent sugar cravings, etc. So that will be amazing. And definitely follow her along on Facebook or Instagram, as well as NatMed Coach if you haven't already, so that you can enjoy her posts of her herb garden adventures this summer, both indoors and out. Join us tomorrow night, May 8th, for Community Coaching Q&A, where you can call in and ask your health questions about your nutrition, your lab work, your lifestyle, accountability, anything that might be going wrong with your health right now. We've also got a special registration for a Gene SNP online symposium, maybe more geared towards health professionals as well as health coaches. However, you are welcome to join on May 16th. You need to pre-register. It's free. It's from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. It's not exactly part of Health Club, but we are co-presenting it. Please join us on Saturday, May 18th for Cannabis and Your Mental Health with Dr. Patricia Pimentel-Selassie. That's a Saturday morning at 9 a.m. And stay tuned to your listings for all the other amazing episodes of Health Club we've got coming up for the rest of the month. Thanks so much if you've tuned in on replay or on archived webinar. And thanks again to Allie Might and everybody who attended. We'll see you next time.
Okay, bye. Have a great day.
You too.
Bye.